Hello guys, my name is Max and today I'm going to be going over an automatic self-sealing custom door flood protection system. I'm sorry, I couldn't find an easier way to name this. I mean, you can just comment if you have any better suggestions, but okay. So, whatever it is, this creation, what it's supposed to do, it is supposed to open and close the door by a button instead of a some kind of a number sender, because this door can only accept, again, a number value. So no buttons can be used to open this door. You have to actually convert this into a number value, which is a rotation target for a robotic door hinge. Um, so what we basically do is whenever this button is turned on, it will convert the on signal to a number value, which will be transmitted as a rotation target for the robotic hinge. In this case, it is a 1, which will open the door fully, because I don't really see why in such a simple mechanism as a door you want the robotic hinge um, to be half open or something. You want it to either be fully closed or fully open. So this is what this green stuff does. Yeah, we should probably go over the colors first before I start jumping into things. So right here you can see the red pump with the little port on there underneath, and basically what it does, it pumps the water from down here all the way up to the our large pump, which will pump the water into the chamber via this little port. Now right here we have our flood control system. So basically anything that is yellow is flood control. Uh, this little circuit here is responsible to reading the value of the uh, fluid level meter, which will return a value to the circuit. Then it will be compared to the threshold that we set when the pump starts activating. And if that threshold is exceeded, like for example in this case that value is set to 1, so if there's more than 1 liter of water in here, the pump will start pumping out water. Now then that water will go out here, which is going through a one-way flow valve, which is simply a mechanical system that allows water to flow one way, and that is out. It is connected to a fluid exhaust port, um, which simply is there to dump the water out. Now, the reason why you want this little thing here to make the water flow one way is because even though you have a large pump, water still can flow in. So if you hit big waves, there will be water getting into your chamber. So that's why you want a one-way fluid valve. Um, all right, so we went over that. So the next thing we want to explain is probably the door circuit. The green resembles anything that has to do with door opening or closing circuit. Basically the buttons, the lights of magnet and seal indicator, and the little control circuit here. Now on the door you will have two switches. You will have a switch to open and close the door, and you'll have one switch, which is in this case on the bottom here, which will engage the magnet. Now in here I want the magnet to be engaged whenever the door is closed, because I don't see why not. Why do you want to engage your magnet manually? It can be just engaged by itself all the time, so that whenever there's flooding in this chamber, you are ready. The blue circuit is the alarm circuit. It has basically a blinker. A blinker is this little thing here. What it will do is it will turn on and off at a set threshold. In this case, I have set the threshold to be 1.4 seconds and 0.8 seconds off. And what it will do with that signal is that it will send it to a light, which will blink at that set threshold, and a buzzer, which will play a simple alarm. And it will repeat it whenever there is flooding in the chamber. Okay. Um, the red ones is what we should go over. The red ones is the large fuel pump, the chamber fluid level. The only thing I use it for is to actually visibly see that the pump is actually working and pumping in or out the water. You don't really need that on your ship because it doesn't really uh, matter how much water is in your chamber because it's water and it's bad. Um, but if you really want, you can have a chamber fluid level meter for every room. It's just that you need to have to remember where it is so you don't get confused. The delay circuit here is probably one of the more interesting ones. Hang on, let me take a quick sip of water. The delay circuit here is one of the more interesting ones. You don't really want that on your ship because you don't need to delay um, your pump starting to pump out water. The only reason I have it here is to make it nice and simple for us to be able to see that the water is being pumped out of the chamber uh, by actually seeing the water. Um, so yeah, and then we have the door and door remote buttons. So the remote button will be most likely placed in your control room, and your door button will be placed by the side of your door. Now, the problem with this is that it will not work well with the system, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you now. The thing with buttons is they are only synchronized when you spawn them. So if we take a look at our buttons, the button's default state is on in this case. They're both on, they're both green. If I push this button, you can see that both buttons shut off. But if I push this button while that button is on, it will close the door, but this button will show as the door is still open. That's why you always want a seal indicator at least up in your control room. So you have to actually push this button to synchronize them. So if I right now would be to open the door by using the normal button, this button would think that the door is closed. There is a problem with this. It is that our fluid control circuit is actively dependent on the signal of this button. So if it's off, the system won't work. So if I am to push the flooding button right now, the door will not close while the water is still inside the chamber. So this is the problem. But if we let the water to drain from our little chamber, now the door opens. It is because both buttons were synchronized because I pushed them. So if I push this button right now to close the door and this button to open it, the system will have a flaw. It will not close the door. So this is why what I wanted to explain first. And you think I'm crazy. Why am I using a flawed system? Very simple. Because you have an automated control circuit, you don't really need a remote button. You could just delete it because this whole system works in itself. You don't need the manual close button. So the door will be closed automatically if there's any flooding that is detected. Let's take a look here. So if we then wire this correctly, as I would do in my ship without a remote button, the system will work perfectly. The thing with the automatic control system is that you can move these gates to anywhere you want on your ship, so that there will be less chance of them getting damaged. You don't have to have them by your door. And if you move these circuits away from the door, even though there's a hole beside the door or on the top where you would actually have your control circuits, they won't be damaged. And that way they will always work. So right now, no matter if we close the door or open the door, it will always work. Automatically, automatically closes the door. The flooding starts. We run down because our drunk captain just ran into a rock. We get in, close the door quickly so that the water won't get out. We fix our leak, and the pump pumps out the rest of the water while we wait patiently for the door to open. And the door opens. No problem. And we can open and close this door no matter whether the flood circuit is activated. It will only close the door if it's open at the moment of flooding. So yeah, now let's go to explaining how this system actually works. If we look at the data side, let's go and start going over the basic door components. This is the robotic hinge, that is which is responsible for opening the door. It has a number value that is used to open the door. It has to be between 0 and 1. So that means we have to convert a on and off output from our button to a number that we can use to actually make the door open and close. Now the thing with this is the door target um, is being well, this is what sets the door target. If I set this to 1, the door will open as it is now, so outwards. If we put this to -1, it will open inwards. So this system is very flexible. It doesn't matter which way you want your door to be opened. Um, so let's start with the door control circuit. Those are the indicator lights which only show when there is a seal and whereas the magnet is engaged on the door. They're both on the inside of the chamber and on the outside, if we take a look here. Okay, so we have the open and close button, and then we have the two opposite outputs. So what the NOT gate does is it inverts an on signal to an off signal and an off signal to an on signal. So basically the opposite of what you are giving it by using this button. So let's go through each of the signals that this button is giving out to discover how the system works. So when the door is turned off, it's going to first send a signal to the memory register. A memory register, what it does is it remembers a value when it is being fed an on signal, and it resets itself when receiving an on signal. So whenever this button is off, it is sending an off signal to all of these spots. In here, the set memory register set is receiving an off signal, so it will not set itself. But the signal is being received by the NOT gate. NOT gate then sends an on signal to the memory register, which clears the value and resets it to 0 because we have set the memory register to reset value of 0. So whenever it receives an on signal right here, it will reset itself to 0, which as a rotation target means that the door will be closed and it's sending out the stored value to the door, making it shut. Shut closed. Then the next off signal is being sent over here to a not A. It inverts the off signal into an on signal, and the on signal then triggers the two magnet indicators, which you don't really need because there is no status report on the door when the magnet is actually engaged. But it's there for us to be 100% sure that the button has engaged the magnet, because the on signal also travels to the magnet and turns it on. So the next thing we want to go over is when this button is on. So when we want to open the door. When an on signal is received right here, it will set the value. So the value is being set from the constant number outputter. It outputs a number 1. So the memory register then stores that number and sends it out to a door as a rotation target. It opens the door outwards, as we have seen in the little demonstration that we did, and well, it opens the door. The next signal that is sent, of course, I'm sorry. So it wants to open the door, but we have a little problem. Our magnet is still engaged, but that's very handy because we have this inverter. It inverts the on signal to an off signal, so it turns off the magnet and the door opens. And the little port here that is responsible for clearing and resetting the stored value to 0, so from a 1 to 0, it is being reset by the not a signal. So this port is no longer on, it's off. So that's why it stores a 1. So hopefully that you have understood this door control system. If you have any problems, you can skip the video a little bit backwards so you can fully understand which one of these components is responsible for what and what it does. So now for the next system. Now let's go over our flooding system. So what flooding system does, it reads a value from the fluid meter, which is hopefully 0, because that's when there is no water in the chamber. It sends that number value to our greater than comparer. So greater than, it will compare the value A with value B. If value A is higher than value B, which is our threshold, it will send out a signal, an on signal. So right now this value is being compared from another constant number. That constant number in this case is set to 1. So 1 liter of water. If there is more than 1 liter of water, it will start the emergency flooding system. Then that signal travels to 3 places. In this case, it travels to first an alarm system. The alarm system then turns on a blinker, which is a basically it transforms an on signal to a blinking on and off signal. And what it does, it simply it blinks a light and sounds an alarm so that we know when our room is being flooded. And this you can connect to anywhere. You can connect it to your control station so that you have a little alarm going in there. You can get this signal to go through a button so that you actually are able to turn off the damn alarm because it suddenly pisses some people off. And yeah, and then it goes through a not a inverter. Again, it inverts the signal. So because our door opens when it's receiving an on signal, we want our flood control system to send an off signal. So our door will be closed, and when our door is already closed, well, it's just gonna not do anything. So if our door is open, it will receive an off signal, which will turn off that button and travel further in our system to shut the door down and activate the locking mechanism. And now remember that the system still allows you to open the door. So if you have spare time to go in and fix the leak, you can do that by simply opening the door by pushing the button. Now, the third signal is going over to a delay box. Now, as I have explained before, this is not necessary. This button only, or the delay, the only thing it does is it delays the signal by 5 seconds. So from when the fluid meter detects flooding, and the greater than comparer decides that this value is larger than the 1 liter that we've set it to, it's going to send out a signal and it will be delayed by 5 seconds. So that means our pump won't activate for 5 seconds. Now, if you were to wire this as you would do in your boat, you would take the greater than and hook it directly up to your pump. Right now, the pump will start as soon as the threshold is exceeded. So we can delete this little uh, delay box. Now, in this case, we are done with everything that has to do with the door control system. And obviously, the chamber fluid level, it just receives a value from the fluid level meter. There's not much to say there. Um, and this switch right here, it activates the pump that pumps in the water from outside. That's not something that you want on your ship. So right now we have connected this system as it's supposed to be connected on the ship so that the pump will activate once the threshold of 1 liter is exceeded. So there will be no delay and we will most likely not even see the water inside. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set the threshold to um, let's say 500 liters so that we are sure that we see the water inside the chamber. But as I've just said, you want this to be set something low, 1 liter, 10 liters, maybe 100 liters, but not more, because you don't want to give any kind of advantage to the flooding that is happening. God damn, the flooding that is happening on your ship, right? You want your pump to start at once. So, we'll start the flooding. System engages because 500 liters were exceeded. And that was apparently too little for us to see. Okay, but the threshold was not very good. But you get what I mean. If we set it to 1 right now, as it's supposed to be in a real ship, right? It will pump out any water. Okay, we're safe. It will pump out any water once the threshold of 1 liter is exceeded. So we won't actually be able to see the water in here because of the way the game engine works. Pumps out the water, alarm deactivates, the door opens. So that is our little system. So I'm going to go over quickly about what each part is. This is an indicator light. It simply indicates us the magnet, the seal indicator when the door is simply closed, the memory register, which is used to remember a value and reset itself to another value, a number that simply outputs a constant number. We have a NOT gate right here. We actually have 3 of them. We have 1 blinker. We have a push button, a double-sided push button. 2 of them, actually. We have a chamber fluid level indicator. We have a light and a buzzard. Then right here we have a fluid exhaust and a fluid, let's see if I'm able to find it, fluid flow valve. It allows us to control that the fluid is pumped only one way. All right. So we don't want our water to get in this system. This is very important. Then we have another large pump. We have 1 large pump inside with a fluid port. We have our fluid meter right there, and we have our another fluid port to pump in the water. We have the pipeline that connects to the large pump, which is connected to a fluid port below to suck in the water. Yes, okay. And of course, we have the robotic door hinge. And down here on the right, if we go to this module, we have a door frame controller. Okay, so you could just look for that right here. Door frame controller. This is this thing. Now, what I want to mention is when you build your door, you want only to have 1 door controller. You don't need any more. 1 door controller, and the rest should be door frame edge. All right. I just wanted to explain that quickly. So yeah, that's been the automatic flooding control system, and I hope you guys liked the video. If you like it, you can like it. If you disliked it, you can dislike it. And yeah, the model will be in the workshop. I will submit the link in the description, and I hope you have a great time building in Stormworks. And I'll see you boys on the high tides. And remember, don't drink and drive. See you around, boys.